That was it. Both hands down, eye ready, go. And now we look to see whether Oxford will assume an advantage right from the off. Cambridge appear to be holding them in the first few strokes.
Oxford went off at 43, although overall a much steadier start. Cambridge quite scrappy on the first 3 strokes. Cambridge at 41.
And in fact, it looks as though Oxford have got a slight lead. They've got a lead of about half a length, and they're increasing it. They are increasing it at the moment. Suddenly, Oxford have assumed superiority, and it happened within about 10 seconds. They suddenly went from being very close to each other, and Oxford suddenly shot very nearly a length ahead now.
So the crews have, if anything, parted from the state boat rather than gone on a collision course. They're now setting wider.
Now that gives you an idea from our helicopter shot of just how much advantage Oxford have got, and they looked almost now to have clear water. And if they've got clear water, they can come across and take the Surrey station, which I think they may well be doing very shortly.
Yes, you can already see that they are coming back over towards the faster water. Oxford now settling at 36, drawing out to a stride, definitely moving across into the faster water, clear ahead of Cambridge.
Well, Cambridge now have really got a task on their hands. They've already lost touch, as it were, with Oxford. They can no longer see them. And Oxford now, at any time, can come across and take their water, because there is most definitely clear water between the two crews, and in fact quite a lot of it now. And I would think Oxford are pulling up now to something like 2 lengths ahead. Now, if Oxford are the great crew that all the tideway experts are telling us they are, then all they have to do now is to sit there and keep Cambridge in their sights, and they don't need to do any more now except row at Cambridge's pace. Well, Oxford, of course, have had the advantage of the Middlesex station in the early stages and have used it well, and are beginning to cross to take Cambridge's water on the Surrey station. And now from our helicopter you can see what I mean. Oxford now not quite over in Cambridge's water, but very near to it. And a good 2 lengths now, probably more, between the two crews.
Both crews now picking up the choppy water, the cross headwind.
Now we're coming towards the first timing point, which is the mile post. That's on the Surrey side, and it's marked by the Steve Fairbairn Memorial. There's the flag up. When that flag drops, that will indicate Oxford have reached the mile. Fulham Football Club in the background. And they're beginning to come out at the Middlesex bend now and beginning to turn. There's the timing for the mile for Oxford. And now, if we wait, we'll see the flag fall for Cambridge. That'll give you an idea of how far apart they are. There we are.
Unofficial time, 3:54. That's a very slow time, but we're not expecting a fast time today. Cambridge, unofficial time, 4:03. So that's about 2.5 lengths.
The official time is 3:54 at the mile. Cambridge's time 4 minutes 3 seconds, and Oxford's 3:54, although not particularly fast, isn't bad, because it's a good deal faster than the time to the mile post by Oxford in the last 2 years. Last year Oxford got to the mile in 4 minutes 6, which is slower than Cambridge have got there today, and in 4:1 the year before, so they're not there in bad time. And in fact, the record to the mile is 3:31, so they're 23 seconds outside the record to the mile. It's still not too bad a time.
See, the conditions here are very rough now.
We might just run down the Oxford 8 from Bowman. Phil Head. 2 is Nick Cunnington. 3, Richard Young. 4, Richard Emerton. 5, the old stager, Boris Rankoff, in his 4th successive boat race. 6 is the president, Chris Mahoney. 7, Mark Andrews. Stroke, John Bland. And steering, of course, the young lady, Sue Brown, who is handling everything very coolly and very competently indeed. And Oxford now leading by about 3 lengths. Oxford have come right over now to the Surrey station. That's the Harrods Repository beneath us.
Now they'll be coming through the worst of the bad water, and as they come through to Hammersmith Bridge, they're going to get a good run with a tailwind behind them, and Oxford will hopefully be wanting to lengthen out and stride after the bridge in the good conditions. Oxford well clear now, right over on the Surrey station.
Now we have a close-up look at the Cambridge crew. Bowman, John Bart, number 2, Mark Panther, 3, Roger Stevens, 4, Miles Clark, 5, in the glasses, Michael Cowie, 6, Graham Phillips, 7 is the president, very tall man, 6'3", and by far the heaviest man in that Cambridge boat, Palmer, 14 stone 5. He's the only 14 stone man in the boat. The stroke is Andrew Dalrymple, and the cox, who coxed Cambridge last year, of course, Chris Wigglesworth. And once again, Chris Wigglesworth getting an all too good view, I'm afraid, of the Oxford boat. This is the second timing point, Hammersmith Bridge, marked by a flag on the shore on the Surrey side. There it is. Hammersmith Bridge is 1 3/4 miles up the course. Very dispiriting for Cambridge. They won the toss, but it made no difference. Now, once they shoot the bridge here, they'll begin to get the wind behind them. The water will be calmer, and the timings won't be too bad. Well, the time for Oxford at Hammersmith Bridge is 7 minutes 12 seconds, and again that's a good deal faster than the race in the last 2 years. They got there in 7:34 last year, Oxford, 7:36 for Cambridge last year, and Oxford got there in 7:24 and 79, so they're not rowing a bad race, Oxford. It's, the timing is quite reasonable.
Oxford now settling down to a good stride.
At this point, they're in Chiswick Reach, over on that far Middlesex bank. Behind there somewhere is the M4 leading up to London Airport. And Cambridge really look as though it is a struggle. Cambridge not looking very happy at all. I don't know whether Penny would agree with that.
Yes, you can see, Harry, that the Cambridge crew haven't got the stride. Their finishes are short. They're not drawing out long, hardly covering the water. By that we mean the set of the 4 blades covering the puddles from the previous set. They're just about covering. A little scratchy on the last part of the stroke.
Now, once again, our helicopter view gives you a very clear impression of the relative distance. And as you can see, there must be, I suppose, 4 lengths at least between the 2 crews. And Oxford taking the best of the water over on the Surrey side now. They've reached the apex of the Great Surrey Bend and now beginning to turn southwards. Now we go up to meet them coming towards us. And as you can see, the bend's still turning in the Surrey side's favour, but beginning to run out now, and they've come about just over 2 miles at this point.
If anything, I think Sue Brown may have come over to the Surrey station a bit too far here. The faster flowing water is slightly closer to the island. Oxford have now raised their rate to 35. Good flat water here, obviously going out to make this difference as large as they can.
Penny, while we're watching the Oxford boat, just tell us why everybody believes them to be such a good crew. When you look at them now, tell us what makes a good crew.
Well, when you're selecting for a crew, you're obviously looking at individual ability, the height, the weight, the strength, the endurance, the skill, the motivational aspect, and temperament. But the other side of it all is how the crew is compatible, how you can weld it together. And this crew have a superb rhythm, really a cohesive unit. If you watch them as the blades come out of the water, it's smooth and it's long. You can see it there very well. It's smooth and it's long. And this, I think, is the element that this year's Oxford crew really do have.
Coming up now to the next timing point, Chiswick Steps. And Oxford have reached Chiswick Steps in 11:11, and Cambridge have got there in 11:25. They're 14 seconds behind Oxford now, and still Oxford are rowing a good deal faster than this race has been rowed in the last couple of years. When Oxford set their famous record of 16:58 in 1976, they reached here in 10:18, but that was on a freak tide. They've reached here in 11:11 today, but it's still considerably faster than the race in the last 2 years. The distance is about 5 lengths now, I would judge.
After that push that Oxford had to 36, they've now settled back to 34, back into a stride, back into a rhythm.
What difference, Penny, do you think these two different types of boats make? I mean, Oxford have got the plastic boat, Cambridge here have got the wooden boat. Tell us what you feel, what's preferable?
Well, personally, I would still go for a good wooden boat. If I had a boatman to maintain it, and I could have it built as I wanted it. Cambridge down now to 32. It's quite low.
When these cargo craft boats started coming in, of course, everybody was saying that these were going to be the thing, and nobody would ever want to go back to a wooden boat. It hasn't quite worked out that way, has it?
Well, the last 3 years at World Championships, international level, one has seen a few more wooden boats coming back in. Certainly, in the normal situation, the training situation, there's a lot of advantages in terms of maintenance and mending the boats quickly from the plastic boats. But they haven't shown a significant advantage in terms of weight gain and stiffness.
Well, now they've reached the point called the crossing, where they begin to come back to the Middlesex Bend, and our helicopter shot will show you that very clearly. This is the crossing, and Oxford now, with that good lead, beginning to come back towards the Middlesex station, where the faster water, of course, is at this point. And the young lady, having no problems at all with this powerful crew in front of her. She must be enjoying herself, and barring some terrible mistake now, Oxford have got the boat race very much in their hands, keeping cohesion and rhythm going very nicely.
I think you can see there the rhythm, the feel of the length and the smoothness that Oxford have got.
Now the next timing point will be Barnes Railway Bridge, which they're getting very close to now. Cambridge sticking to it gallantly, but those 8 men haven't seen Oxford since the very early stages of the race, and that is very dispiriting. Now they come to the great railway bridge at Barnes, and they must shoot the central span. tricky little part of the course, this, Penny, isn't it? Having to get out there into that water to take the central arch. And it's a very sharp bend here, isn't it?
Yes, the temptation is always to cut the corner before the bend, and then when you find you actually get onto the apex of the bend, you've got to take it all at once, and it involves a lot of hard steering. The secret of all these bends is to try to ease round them little and often with the steering.
Barnes Bridge is about 3.5 miles, and they have to cover just under 4 1/4. The time of Oxford at Barnes Bridge, 15:06, and they're 18 seconds at that point ahead of Cambridge. And the race is still considerably faster for both crews than the last 2 boat races. It's really not a bad time. This looks like being one of the biggest Oxford margins for some time, one suspects.
Oxford
and it must
are clearly going to make this gap as big as they can.
Well, we're getting very close now to the finish. And there you are. You can see now quite clearly from our overhead shot the distance, and it's a considerable margin. It must be 7 or 8 lengths, perhaps even more. So this is a very fine Oxford crew. Every prediction said it would be, and they've proved it to the hilt. And they went off early and got an early lead. They were able to take Cambridge's water early on. And so this Ladbrokes University boat race of 1981 is turning out exactly the way the experts said it would.
Oxford now beginning to push on. They've raised their rate up to 35. Cambridge still at 32.
And one little point I think about the Oxford boat one should mention. For the first time in my memory, Oxford have got a name on the bows of the boat, and the name is Russell Crockford, who rowed in the boat as their #2 man in 1978 and 79, winners on both occasions, who was killed in a car crash in Australia earlier this year. And Oxford named the boat in memory of him. And they're bringing that boat home now to the finish. Extremely good winners.
Superb, powerful crew.
And the finish, you'll see the 2 posts coming up in our shot. There's the finishing line, and Oxford have crossed it, and they are very easy winners indeed. That is a marvellous row by Oxford, and I would think that their time will be judged to be very good indeed, given the slow conditions. Slack tide, a lot of land water coming down. No conditions for fast times, and in fact, Cambridge could never match them. The finish time for Oxford is 18 minutes 11, and that is a good deal faster than the last 2 years. Very good time indeed. In fact, it's 1 minute and 9 seconds faster than last year's race.